So it's Kevin Peterson, K-E-V-I-N-P-E-T-E-R-S-O-N. I am the founder of the New Democracy Coalition. But we today are initiating an initiative where we are aiming to engage in a series of boycotts and a series of creative engagements with the city and with the merchants at Faneuil Hall Marketplace. We are doing this because we have, over the months and over at least a year and a half, we have been trying to engage the mayor around changing the name of Faneuil Hall to Crispus Attucks Hall. Faneuil Hall is connected with slavery in this city, and we believe that civic spaces such as it should not be celebrated because it denigrates and disrespects communities of color, not only across the city but across the country.
What are specifically, like with the two people, Faneuil and Crispus Attucks, why?
Faneuil Hall, or I should say Peter Faneuil, of whom Faneuil Hall is named, is associated with the slave trade. He owned slaves. He was well known for trafficking slaves across the globe. At his death, he owned 5 African slaves. So we find that it is unfitting that a public place such as Faneuil Hall should be associated with the hideous legacy of slavery. So it's important that the citizens of Boston be educated through a series of public forums and hearings across neighborhoods in Boston to be educated, made aware of the legacy of slavery and racial oppression in Boston, so that it can make its mind about whether we should have buildings like Faneuil Hall dedicated to racists.
And specifically, why did you choose for the sadly probably a large amount of people who don't know their history, why did you settle on Crispus Attucks as the name you want to rename it to?
Crispus Attucks is a name that we should consider as the new name for Faneuil Hall, because Crispus Attucks was one of the country's and one of the city's initial heroes. He was the first to die in the Revolutionary War. He happened to be African American, but he was a valiant servant for this country in terms of giving his life. Crispus Attucks was murdered 2 blocks from Faneuil Hall, and the city's fathers thought that Crispus Attucks' act of courage was so important that they laid his body in state at Faneuil Hall for 3 days as a tribute towards his heroism. So we think Crispus Attucks, whose name has not been prominent among the founding fathers and the founding heroes of this country, his name should be added to the most important names in this city.
What is the response you've gotten from the mayor and other officials in the city to this initiative?
We are disappointed that Mayor Walsh has not responded to our press conferences, our letters, and our personal visits to his office to engage him on this matter. We've been rebuffed and we've been rejected on all sides. This is extremely disappointing in light of the fact that Mayor Walsh has staked his administration's legacy on addressing the issue of racial division in the city. Just months ago, the Boston Globe issued a scathing series around racial division in the city of Boston, which articulated how blacks are the last to be tended to in on a number of issues ranging from education to public safety. If the mayor is truly interested in engaging the city around racial reconciliation, we believe that this is an issue about which he should be engaged. Unfortunately, he's not, and that's a disappointment. Yet and still, we look for opportunities in the coming days to speak with Mayor Walsh and talk about how we can find a pathway forward towards talking about race in the city and talking about changing the name of Faneuil Hall in particular.
Is it surprising that you haven't gotten anything, given how eager he was to change Yaqui Way, or how that was such a quick initiative for whatever reason? Is it surprising that, what makes this different?
I'll put it this way: I'm extremely shocked that the mayor has not responded to an issue about which tens of thousands of citizens in this city are aware and concerned about. There are many African American citizens across the neighborhoods in this city, his city as it were, who think that Faneuil Hall represents the ugliest part of Boston's history. I would think that he, Mayor Walsh, would be sensitive to the fact that voters who put him in office now want to hear from him directly about addressing the issue of the racism that's connected to Faneuil Hall. Yet Mayor Walsh has said no. He's refused to answer. He's rebuffed us on every side, and that should be perhaps an indication to the citizens of Boston that he doesn't care about black people in the city.
So what does the boycott entail? Like, what's the process here, and what can people do?
The boycott entails a series of interventions at Faneuil Hall and at the Quincy Hall Marketplace that are led by black people, which are aimed to educate the public about the racial history connected to Faneuil Hall and the marketplace. So we will act in terms of picketing, we will act in terms of sit-ins at businesses at the Quincy Hall Marketplace, and we will act in terms of identifying businesses that are connected with the city in particular, who should be ashamed. I'm talking about personal business and private business who are connected with the city, who should be ashamed of their association with the city of Boston because of its association with Faneuil Hall.
When is it? I don't know if you can say, if you're still planning, but when will this begin? Like, right now, has this already begun?
No, we are planning within the next 10 days. We will initiate our first picket and boycott. After that, we will from time to time engage in sit-ins and boycotts and protesting other financial and business industries. We will be engaged in picketing other financial institutions who are connected with the city of Boston through its investments.
So I think one of the last things is where, other than wherever this airs, is there websites? Where can people find out more about what you're doing?
Well, you can reach out through to the New Democracy Coalition .org. That's our website, where there's a phone number available, and there's also a email communication available.
Okay, also, just since it's the data thing you mentioned, will you talk about where we are here, like what the spot we're in?
So we are standing, ironically, at the Theodore Lyman Park, who is the 5th mayor of the city of Boston. He connects us to our narrative around the legacy of slavery in the city of Boston, in that as the 5th mayor of Boston, Mayor Lyman actively held pro-slavery meetings. So there is a connection between even the initial mayors of the city of Boston and the legacy of slavery. So we are highlighting the fact that Boston, unfortunately, is connected to a longer legacy of slavery than we believe it to be. And even among our city's mayors, there were city leaders who actively supported slavery, and that's unfortunate. So this place in Dorchester connects us to Faneuil Hall and to other sites across the city, quite frankly, which are connected to slavery and it is important for all citizens of Boston to engage in conversations around reconciliation, around coming together and creating a more unified city along the lines of race. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Got it? All right.
That's definitely fantastic.
Isn't that me?
This very spot right here?
The water fountain. He was also famous. This is why he was too. But he was famous.
I didn't mean to
for,
take your time on this. I'm just so fascinated by this.
He was famous because he connected. He was a major proponent around connecting the city's waterworks. And so they created a fountain in his honor. But if you go through the history books, you're alive, you see that he's
little things you never know about it.
I only found out about it because there's a community effort here to reopen this fountain. And I was doing some research and just click on the internet.